In this video, we will be starting Unit 14, where we're going to begin our lessons on geometry. So our SOLs are 6.7c and 6.9, so go ahead and add those to the front of your notebook in your units of study. And today we're going to start with congruence. So go ahead and get that part copied in, and then you can turn the page till you start to get some blank pages in the back. Label that as Unit 14 Geometry. Remember, you can fold over that corner there. And then we're going to get started. All right, so we're going to start out with polygons and congruence. I spelled congruence wrong here. There should be an E. So polygons are two-dimensional geometric figures that have the following. They're made of straight lines. Each segment touches exactly two other segments, one at each end point, and they are closed. So those are the three stipulations for being a polygon. So make sure you have this copied in. If you need to, pause me and let's look at some shapes that are polygons. So the top row, it says these shapes are polygons. So you can see they are closed. They only touch at 2 points. So there's two lines that take off from each end point. And then looking back, we made sure, oh, they're made of straight lines. So that was the other one. They all have straight lines. So you can see there's a rectangle, and then there's this little 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is a hexagon, a triangle, another hexagon here. But either way, they're all closed. That means there's no openings to get in, as best as I could draw them. They have straight lines, and they have two lines that take off from each point. So you could see, this is a point right here, and I have two lines to take off. And then the same thing here, I have two lines to take off from that point. That's what that means. Now, these shapes are not polygons. So we have a circle here, and this is not a polygon because it doesn't have straight lines. So no straight lines. This one is not a polygon because this line right here is not straight. This one is not a polygon because it's not closed. There's an opening there. And this one is not a polygon because there are too many segments touching. You can only have two. All right, so that's what a difference between a polygon and not a polygon is. So I want you to try 3 of those on the next page for you. So go ahead, draw those 3 shapes and tell me, are they a polygon, yes or no? So this first one is not, because it has the opening here, it's not closed. The second one is a yes. It is a polygon, it's closed, it has straight lines, and there's 2 segments to take off from each point. And then the third one is not, there are no straight lines. So let's start talking about congruence now. So congruent shapes have the same size and the same shape. So if we look at these 2 shapes, I did my best to draw them, but they are meant to be congruent, and this is the symbol that means congruent. So they are the same size and the same shape. Again, they don't have to be perfect, but try to get them as close as you can. Whereas these 2 shapes, I have a triangle versus this rectangle, these are not congruent. And that's how you use the symbol for that. So this is not congruent, and the upper one is the congruent symbol. So it's the equal sign with a squiggle, or the equal sign with a squiggle crossed out if it's not congruent. So I want you to practice drawing congruent and non-congruent shapes. So your first one, you need to draw a shape that is congruent to this one, and the second one, you need to draw a shape that is not congruent. All right, so this one, I'm going to do my best. Remember, it doesn't have to be perfect. So there's my congruent shape. My not congruent shape, you could have really drawn anything as long as you didn't draw this shape. So I drew a circle in my example, but you could have drawn a square, you could have drawn a triangle. Let's make sure it's closed. You could have drawn anything as long as it wasn't that exact trapezoid. All right, so let's talk about congruence with some symbols. So if two polygons are shown as congruent, their corresponding sides and angles are also congruent, and corresponding means matching. So if we look at these two shapes, they are meant to be congruent. So the congruent statement is telling us that triangle ABC is congruent to triangle DEF. And if you pay attention, they have to be read in the same order. So what that's telling us is that A matches with D, B matches with E, C matches with F. They're in the same location, so you can see which actual pieces match up and are congruent. You can also look at the symbols. See how A has one swoop in it and so does D? So that's telling us that angle A is congruent to angle D. And the angle symbol is this little angle that I drew in front of the letters. Again, if I look at the two swoops, there's two here for B, there are two here for E. And you can also see that B and E are in the same location in the congruent statement. So angle B is congruent, that equal sign with the little swoosh on the top, is congruent to angle E. And the same thing for C. There are three swoops in C. There are three swoops in F. So angle C is congruent to angle F. All right, now let's talk about the sides. Same thing. You can see here there's one tick mark right there for A to B. So that's telling me that side AB, that segment there, is congruent. Now I need to find the other one with only one tick mark, which is going to be that one right there. So D to E connecting is going to be congruent. And make sure you're writing it in the same order. I want AB top down, I have to go DE, again, top down. If I do the two tick marks, I have BC, make sure you put your little line segment piece on there, is congruent. Now I went from left to right, and I need to find one with two. Here it is, E to F. I have to go left to right. E to F. And then the last one, A to C, is congruent, and there's three here, so I have to match the three, which are right there. I'm going to read it in the same order. I went A to C, so top down, so I have to go D to F. So that's how you can match up your congruent pieces. You can also see over here, like in this congruent statement, I have A to B, it's going to be congruent to D to E. I have B to C, so same thing I'm writing here, it's congruent to E to F. A to C will be congruent to D to F. So you can also just use the congruent statements if you're having trouble looking at the shapes. Let's try another one. So again, we have two triangles, but this time they're flipped around a little bit. So our congruent statement, we have triangle CBD is congruent to triangle PQR. So again, we can use our little tick marks. BD, which is right here, is a one tick mark line, a little green one. So I need to match it, and it's going to match to QR. You could also look, here's BD, so I have to match the same location, it'll match with QR. Now I'm going to do DC, so D to C going up, there's two tick marks there, so I'm going to go R to P with two tick marks. So RP. Then I have CB, which is three tick marks, and again I have to go the same direction, but this time it's kind of flipped around. This one is going to be PQ. And you can always check yourself. You can see that CB was right here, and PQ is right there. So you can see what order they're supposed to be in. Now looking at the angles, I'm looking for the matching swoops. So C has one swoop and so does P. So angle P is congruent to angle C. Angle B is congruent to angle Q because it has two swoops in it. And angle D is congruent to angle R, because there's 3 swoops in both of them. Right? I want you to try the next one on your own. See if you can figure out which pieces are congruent. So angle E is going to be congruent to angle L. Angle F is congruent to angle M. Angle G is going to be congruent to angle N. And again, you can check E, L, F, M, G, N. You can check it with the congruent statement. And then I have E to F. I'm going to go, it's congruent to L to M. Same order. F to G is congruent to M to N. And then the last one, E to G, is congruent to LN. So that is all we're going to go over for congruence today. If you have any questions, please make sure you ask your questions to your teacher. And thank you so much for your hard work.